In this lesson, you will learn about the sensors and weapons of the longbow. First, you will learn the different sensors and how to use them to find and engage targets. Then, you will learn about all the weapons available and how to use them to destroy your targets. Ready? Okay, start the engines and take off. Hover at 200 feet. If you are unfamiliar with flying the aircraft, perhaps you are not ready for this lesson. Go to a hover at 200 feet. First, we shall look at the sensor packages. There are 3 primary sensors available to you. The first and most important are your eyes. Since the weapon systems will follow your head movements, looking around your aircraft for targets can be instantly gratifying. Press the F4 key. Press the F4 key. You can now move your head around and engage targets. You can move your head using the joystick and the Alt key. Press the Y key. Now you are looking at the TAD's target, which is a friendly. Use your eyes often. It is the easiest way to engage and destroy close threats. To return to the front cockpit view, hit F1 key. The second sensor package is your TADs. The Longbow is a dual-position aircraft with the co-pilot gunner, or CPG, taking care of target acquisition and classification, and the pilot doing the flying and the killing. The CPG takes care of all target location for you, and you can watch in the TAD's MFD. If you want, you can take over the TAD's control by using your cursor control in the TAD's MFD. By pressing the cursor control on the edges of the MFD, you can pan and tilt the package. By pressing on the zoom indicator, you can zoom in and out on the targets. By pressing on the sensor indicator, you can cycle through the DTV, the DVO, and the FLIR. Though you can control these sensors, it is better to let the CPG do it. The TADS is also used to laser designate targets for laser hellfires and other laser-guided weapons. The TAD's range is about 6 kilometers, and it can see up to 110 degrees to each side. The third sensor package available to you is the Westinghouse Millimeter Wave Longbow Fire Control Radar, or FCR. It can search for, track, and identify both ground and air targets up to 20 kilometers away. The FCR is also used to illuminate targets for engagement with RF hellfires. The FCR has 2 modes. Ground mode looks ahead of the aircraft in a 90-degree arc. Air mode looks 360 degrees for air targets, or you can see the classified targets in the TSD MFD. Look at your TSD. Notice how the friendly target you acquired earlier is highlighted on the TSD. This means that the target is now being illuminated by the FCR. You can use the cursor control to select other targets on the TSD. Simply put the cursor over the target and click to select it. The symbols on the TSD tell what kind of vehicle the targets are. If the target is in your view area, then a dashed cross will appear on it. To choose between FCR or TAD's acquisition of targets, use the Home key. You can check which mode you are in by looking at the weapon page. Changing acquisition modes is useful to keep a target locked in one mode while searching for other targets via an MFD in the other mode. Okay, let's go have some fun. Fly to waypoint 1. The first weapon we will use is the 30mm chain gun automatic cannon. It is useful against infantry, trucks, and other soft targets. As you get towards waypoint 1, your CPG will start to pick up targets near the waypoint. Since the range of the chain gun is under 1 kilometer, hold your fire until the range is under 1.0 kilometers. When you have a target in range, fire. When the range section of the IHADS reads less than 1 kilometer, fire the chain gun. Good shooting. Pull to a hover at waypoint 2. Pull to a hover at waypoint 2. Slow down and hover near the waypoint. The next weapon in your arsenal is the 2.75-inch folding fin aerial rocket. These unguided rockets are useful for soft and lightly armored targets like buildings, trucks, and armored support vehicles. The rockets have a range of about 8 kilometers, but are useful within about 3 kilometers. The thing to remember when firing the rockets is that they are unguided. The rocket pods can move up and down a little to compensate for range, but you must turn your aircraft directly at the target to fire. Also, since the rocket pods automatically stow at 100 knots, be sure to move slower when engaging with the rockets. To change your active weapon system to rockets, when the rocket is active, the weapon field of I-HADS will show RKT, and the I-beam rocket cursor will appear. When the target comes into range, which is about 3 kilometers, start to slow down and line up on the target. Follow the I-beam cursor. As long as you have the cursor over the center of your view, you are lined up on the target. The top and bottom of the cursor represent the limits of the rocket pod rotation. If you are pitched too far or are flying too fast, the cursor will become dashed to indicate you are out of constraints. When you get lined up, fire a rocket. Good kill. Sometimes it's easier to hit a target if you increase the amount of rockets that are fired. To change the amount of rockets fired on every shot, use the available ripple rates are 1, 2, 4, and 8 rockets per shot. You can see which ripple rate you are using by checking the weapon display on an MFD. Pick a target and use the rocket ripple control to select 8 rockets. Come on, line up on the target and fire. Notice it takes a while to fire 8 rockets, but what destruction! You can see how many rockets remain by checking the weapon display on any MFD. Fly around and test your rocket firing abilities. When done, fly to waypoint 3. Fly to waypoint 3. fly to waypoint 3. Slow down and hover near the waypoint. The weapon used by the Apache to defend against air targets is the Stinger infrared guided missile. The Stinger is used by orienting the aircraft so that the seeker head of the missile can acquire the heat source of a target aircraft. When the seeker has acquired, it will emit a shrill tone into the intercom system and you can fire. To help you find and engage air targets, use the Longbow radar in air mode. As a shortcut, you can switch all your avionics over to aircraft killing in air mode by using On the radar display, there now are several targets. These are target drones used to practice air-to-air combat. Use your cursor control to select one. Good. Now make sure that you have the stingers active. The iHADS display should say ATA, and there should be a bouncing donut on the iHADS. This donut represents where the seeker head of the missile is looking. To fire the weapon, turn the aircraft towards the target. As you turn, watch how the donut cages to the Longbow radar and starts to look in the right area. When you get the launch tone and the donut is solid, launch. The missiles are extremely fast and will take out the target quickly. Good shot. Use the air radar to select another target and do it again. You might want to close on the target and try your cannon. It can be especially deadly to air targets at close ranges. When you are done, fly to waypoint 4. When you are done, fly to waypoint 4. Slow down and hover near the waypoint. The last weapon on your longbow is the Hellfire missile. The primary design of the longbow is to safely deliver the Hellfire to enemy targets without being detected or engaged by anti-air threats. Hellfire will destroy almost any target, but is used mainly against enemy armor. Killing tanks is what it is all about. There are two ways you can launch a Hellfire at a target. Lock on before launch mode, or LOBL, is the easiest. You lock a target, orient your aircraft so the missile can see the target, and fire. You keep the target locked until the missile impacts. This is also known as the direct fire method and is used in the direct fire master mode. The other way to launch a missile is lock on after launch, or LOAL. In this mode, you use the fire control radar and the tactical situation display to get a picture of the target area. On the TSD, you select a target using the cursor and fire the weapon. You don't have to have the target locked to fire. The missile will leave your aircraft and loft up towards the target. While the missile is in the air, though, you must re-illuminate the target, because the missile needs the radar reflections off the target for terminal homing. If you do not re-illuminate the target, the missile will miss. The missile countdown timer on the haze tells you how much time you have until missile impact. LOAL is also known as indirect fire launch mode and is used in the indirect fire master mode. You can tell which missile launch mode is active by looking at the haze. The missile constraint box for LOBL mode is small, but it is very large for LOAL launches. You can also check the weapon page on an MFD to see which mode you are in. You can change the missile launch mode using the alternatively. Changing master modes from direct fire to indirect fire will switch the missile launch modes. The AGM-114B laser-guided Hellfire missile is no longer the main weapon for armor killing, but you should still know how to use it. The laser-guided missile is LOBL only, and you must keep the target locked during the entire flight of the missile. You can laser designate another target during the missile's flight, but if the missile is too far along the flight path, it might not be able to turn in time. This missile was great in Desert Storm, killing hundreds of enemy tanks and vehicles. The new AGM-114K Hellfire 2 missile is now the weapon of choice for killing tanks. The seeker head is guided by the FCR to attack illuminated targets. It can also be sent to an area to await illumination of a target by the aircraft. Okay, let's use one of these puppies. To warm up the system for a Hellfire, switch weapons until MSL appears in your haze. Switch yourself to direct fire master mode using the... Now look at your TSD. Move your cursor to select a close armored vehicle. A diamond will appear around his symbol. Now orient your aircraft so that the missile constraint box is at the center of your haze and the box is solid. When you hear the tone, you have a lock, and the missile can see the target. Fire when ready. With a missile in the air, you must keep in view of the target so the radar can continue to paint it. If you lose contact with the target, the missile will continue on the path it was on and most likely will miss the target. That was easy, right? Now let's try to kill multiple targets. It's really easy. Use your cursor control on the TSD to select 3 targets by shift clicking on them. Make sure the targets are close together so that you don't have to whip the aircraft around to fire the next missile. When you have the target selected, point towards the first one and you get a lock. When you hear the tone, fire. Now get a lock on the second target and fire. While you are firing, the first missiles are in flight. The countdown timer on the iHads tracks the oldest missile fired, then switches to the next missile when the target is destroyed. Easy, right? Point and click death from above. Except it's not so easy out on the battlefield with people shooting back. Engaging targets directly is the simplest way to eliminate them, but also the most dangerous. When you are firing and while the missile is in flight, your aircraft is left exposed to the enemy and whatever air defenses they might have. In order to decrease your exposure and still kill the targets, you must use the indirect lock-on after-launch method of firing Hellfires. To switch to indirect fire mode, hit the missile constraint box on the iHads has now become larger, reflecting the larger envelope for LOAL missile shots. Now use your TSD to designate a target. Point your aircraft so that you are in missile constraints and fire. Seems as easy as a direct shot, right? Good work, soldier. In the next lesson, which is strategy and tactics, you'll learn how to use LOAL launches to strike fear into the hearts of enemy tankers. That concludes this flight lesson. Proceed to waypoint 5 and land the aircraft. Fly to waypoint 5. Fly to waypoint 5. Land the aircraft. Go into a hover above the landing spot, drop collective, and land on the ground. This should be second nature by now. Go into a hover above the landing spot, drop collective, and land on the ground. This should be second nature by now.